We know who Kirk Cousins is, right? He's a really good regular season quarterback, but can't get it done in the playoffs. Always leaves you wanting more anytime he plays in a postseason game. For how good he is in the regular season, it is underwhelming and disappointing. He has only one playoff victory to his name. So he is not someone we would call elite. I would say he's a back end of the top 10 quarterback, but nowhere near elite. So that means, right, just by definition, you can do better than Kirk Cousins. There are limited, but quarterbacks out there you could upgrade if you're the Vikings with over Kirk. But there's way more quarterbacks. 10, 11, 12 times more quarterbacks out there that you could do way worse with compared to Kirk Cousins. So small upgrades available, large gap in terms of how bad you can do if you do move off of Kirk Cousins. Which is why if you are the Minnesota Vikings, you got to re-sign Kirk Cousins. I would do it now. I would re-sign Kirk Cousins to make sure I am not doing what the Las Vegas Raiders did a few months ago. The Las Vegas Raiders, after last season, had it in their mind they are done with Derek Carr. We are done. He's not our quarterback. We are moving on from Derek Carr. They were so excited to move off of Carr, they cut him. They cut him. Didn't get anything back for him. We rather give you away for free than hold on to you, maybe get something back in return, but worst case scenario, we get nothing, we're gonna have to keep you. They said, we do not want to do that. Could not wait to give Carr away. And guess what happened to the Raiders? They thought they were upgrading. They thought Derek Carr ain't it, we'll get an upgrade. And just like Cousins, they realized, yeah, you can absolutely do better than Carr or Cousins. But the likelihood of doing so is very slim. And the likelihood of you doing worse than either quarterback, very high. Very high, and that's what the Raiders did. They panicked, they looked around and realized there was no one here we could bring in right now that is better than what we had before, so we're going to sign the closest thing to him, Jimmy G. I think Derek Carr is a little bit better than Jimmy G, but health-wise, Carr is way more reliable than Garoppolo. So you downgrade there in terms of getting a quarterback that you can't even feel great about him staying healthy for 17 games, let alone giving you a chance and elevating this team more than Carr could to get him to the playoffs and even more than that. So the Raiders couldn't wait to get rid of Carr and had no plan whatsoever. If you're the Vikings, you cannot commit that same mistake, which is why I would sign Cousins, because there's very little upgrades and realistically no available upgrades. Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, all upgrades right over Kirk Cousins. No chance you're getting them. No chance. Lamar Jackson, that was maybe your best opportunity. He just re-signed in Baltimore. There's no quarterback out there right now that you could go acquire that's going to be an upgrade over what you got. Which is why if I'm Minnesota, I wouldn't take the risk. I would lock up Kirk now, and I'd make sure that I'm not sitting there just like the Raiders were a few months ago looking around going, holy bleep. We got a roster with Devontae Adams. We got a roster, I know he's disgruntled, but Josh Jacobs. We added guys on offense to try to be, competitive and make a playoff push. And now we're sitting here quarterbackless. Minnesota's in the same position. You got Justin Jefferson. You drafted Jordan Addison. You got KJ Osborne. You got a lot of talent. TJ Hawkinson. You have talent on offense. Don't push Cousins away and run away and then all of a sudden look around and go, holy cow, we got nothing else. We are downgrading. And that's why I don't really understand the comments coming from Minnesota this week. Minnesota owner Mark Wilf was talking with the media, and he was asked, hey, would you consider giving Cousins an extension? Here's Minnesota Vikings owner Mark Wilf's response to that.
That's a Quasian coach to work through those discussions. There's always conversations on that, but our real focus is 100% on 2023 and getting where we need to be and where I know we can be.
Pretty non-committal there, huh? Pretty deflective. PR 101 and how not to answer a question. I'll leave that to the football guys. I'll let our GM, I'll let our head coach decide that question as our quarterback is going into the last year of his contract And the most important position in the NFL could be a question mark with a playoff caliber roster coming off a 13-win season this time next year. Now what you want to hear, now what we should be hearing. So I'll ask Mark this question: where are you going? If you're ready to run away from Kirk, if you're non-committal on bringing him back, where is the upgrade? Where are you going to get a better quarterback that's going to elevate this team more than Cousins can? Dak upgrade? We just had a caller before talking about pressure, and he thinks that the Cowboys could trade Dak Prescott if the Cowboys underachieve this year. If that's the case, if he is right and Dak is actually on the block, Jerry said, enough of it, I'm sick of Dak, we got to move on from him. Dak is not an upgrade over Kirk. The same quarterback. I would still take Kirk. I think he's better and more consistent. But both don't show up in the playoffs. Both don't elevate your team when you need them to. That's not an upgrade. Kyler Murray, that's a guy I think that will be on the block realistically, because I think the Cardinals are going to be very bad this year. I think you're going to see them move off Kyler and draft most likely Caleb Williams. Is Kyler Murray now all of a sudden going to be a guy that's going to lift this Vikings team to the heights that they believe they can make, which is the Super Bowl? No. Kyler Murray, super inconsistent. Guy who's, you look at his stats, look at the second half of every single year Kyler Murray has played. This is a guy who is the king of getting off to hot starts and fizzling out fast. He plays his worst football after Thanksgiving. At least Kirk plays his worst football in the playoffs in January. At least he'll still give you good football around Thanksgiving and into Christmas. Maybe a little bit on New Year's Eve too. He'll give you that. It's when the calendar flips to the postseason that he struggles and can't get over the hump. Kyler Murray, Thanksgiving dinner comes and he checks out. He plays like he had a giant feast and just is in a food coma the rest of the season. That guy stinks in the second half of the year, and he's in his one playoff game is awful. So Kyler Murray is absolutely not an upgrade. Mac Jones, Ryan Tannehill, Jimmy Garoppolo, Sam Darnold, these are the pool of candidates the Vikings will be looking at next year. Any of those jump out at you that scream upgrade? Yes, we need him. I'll save you the time and energy. No. Absolutely not. And if you think they're getting Caleb Williams, you think they're getting Drake May, good luck. They won't be 13-4. I do see a regression coming. When you win 11 one-score games the way they did last year, that always evens itself out. So I don't think we're going to see another 13-win or even build off of that 14 or 15-win team for the Vikings this year. But I don't see them going in the tank and winning 4 or 5 games. This to me is still a playoff team. It could be 9-8 or 10-7. That's still a playoff team in 2023, which means you are nowhere close to getting a quarterback that can change your fortunes around anytime soon. So I don't see the upgrade. There is no upgrade. Every quarterback we just talked about is a downgrade. Every quarterback the Vikings realistically could acquire is a downgrade compared to what they currently have in Kirk Cousins. Which is why, even though the owner just said before, yeah, we'll see. Basically play it by year. We'll allow our GM, allow our head coach to make some sort of decisions. If I'm Minnesota, I'm doing exactly what I have done the last few years. Give Kirk a 1-year extension. Make sure this is not a lame duck season. Lock him up now. Because the realization should set in, the reality should set in, is that you will most likely, if you move off of Kirk, are doing way worse. Downgrading compared to upgrading. And when you have a roster set and ready to compete right now, especially on offense, you cannot be downgrading. You cannot give Justin Jefferson a reason to want or demand a trade. You cannot, waste right now the young offensive talent they have on this team by giving them Sam Darnold or Kyler Murray next year. Kirk is the answer for Minnesota. Yes, we know what he is. He's a guy that always leaves you wanting more when it comes to playoff performance. But he is really damn good in the regular season. And that's a guy that, even though has faults, is not elite. We know who he is. He's a guy that there's very few upgrades for. And those 7, 8, 9 quarterbacks, those guys that are in that elite to really good category above Cousins, they're not attainable. They're not acquirable. The Jaguars are not trading Trevor Lawrence. The Chargers are not giving you Justin Herbert. So all the quarterbacks that are better than Kirk, you can't get. Everyone else you can get is way worse. Which is why if you're Minnesota, you lock Kirk up now. Going to his final year of his deal, you don't even risk going into the offseason after this upcoming year with a quarterback question. You make sure Kirk, at least in the short term, 2023, 2024, bare minimum, is on your roster, is your guy.